My name's Detective Josue Rodriguez
And Detective Rodriguez, where do you work?
for the Dallas Police Department.
What do you do for the Dallas Police Department?
I am a homicide detective.
How long have you been doing that for?
A little over 4 years.
When did you join DVD?
In September 2010.
What kind of training and stuff do you have to get to become a detective?
You go through an initial 8-month academy. After you complete the police academy, you do field training. You get trained by a senior officer. After you complete the training process, you complete probationary period before you are kind of just let out on your own.
How long does that take?
It takes about 6 months.
The whole process takes 6 months, or just?
The training after the academy, the field training takes about 6 months, and then another month of probationary period.
How long does the academy go for?
8 months.
So all told, and then you're with the FTO as well, right? The field training officer as well for a little bit?
Yes.
All told, it's almost about 2 years, right?
Yes.
So you joined the Dallas Police Department in 2010?
Yes, sir.
So you'd have been training still until about 2012-ish? 20-ish? 12?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how long was, so what were you doing when you were on patrol?
Answer 911 calls, talk to witnesses, secure crime scenes, make traffic stops.
What areas did you patrol?
Southwest Dallas.
What area is that?
It encompasses Oak Cliff, parts of South Oak Cliff, West Dallas.
Do you like pick your area, or does that get assigned to you?
Both. You typically just get assigned to an area.
Okay. And when you got, what made you decide to become a homicide detective?
I mean, a lot of different reasons, but it's the nature of the job, and you know, the meaningfulness behind it.
And you said you became a homicide detective 5 years ago?
4.
4 years ago. So that would have been 2020.
Yes, sir.
Oh, during the pandemic you became a homicide detective.
Yes.
Could you tell the jury a little bit about how y'all functioned during the pandemic in terms of as a unit, like as a homicide unit?
It was a little challenging because we could not. We were limited in our contact or our interactions with people. We were not. We were kind of limited on where we could go meet people, whether we could bring them to headquarters for an interview or not, or go meet them somewhere or not. Too many people being in the office or in the building at the same time. We just had a lot of different unique rules.
Let me rephrase it. So like you guys worked, how many people are in the homicide division? How many detectives?
Right now,
Yeah.
there's about 30 of us.
Okay. And back during the pandemic times, y'all had sort of broken up into teams, kind of, right?
Yes.
It was like how many per team?
We had 3 squads, and there was about 7 or 8 people per squad.
Okay. And so your squad would sort of respond together to homicide scenes, right? One person would be a lead, but then you guys would respond together.
Yes.
That was a lot.
Yes.
Because it's not like, I mean, crime did not happen as much, but it was still happening during the pandemic, correct?
Yes.
And so you guys had a lot of cases building up, correct?
Yes.
That you guys, because it wasn't like nowadays, it's you, how do you get a case nowadays?
It works the same way. So we have a rotation. So when a murder case comes up, that murder case gets assigned to the first person that's at the top of the rotation. Then the next person, it gets assigned to the next person. It's kind of like a batting order, like a baseball batting order. It's just the next person that's up catches the next case.
Okay, and so you guys don't respond 7, 8 detectives to a scene anymore like that, right?
Not typically. Sometimes if it's a really big scene or there's multiple locations involved, or if it's kind of a high profile deal, then yes. But typically there's only 3 or 4 of us that respond.
Okay. And so in the lead detective for the murder case of Du'Vonta Lampkin?
Yes,
What we're looking at over there, states 1 and 2, is that Du'Vonta Lampkin?
it is.
Okay. Have you been the lead detective on the case since it happened?
Yes.
Do you remember when it happened?
May 5th, 2022.
Okay. So this whole time you've been the lead detective on the case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember how? Let's talk. How did this case come into you?
So I was notified by my supervisor, Sergeant Criddle. She notified all of us that were on call that day that she had got notified of a murder at 500 South Hervé, and I was the lead on that case because I was the next detective up.
It was just next detective up, and that was your turn.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And could you talk to the jury on May 5th, 2022, what you did?
So on May 5th, 2022, once I was notified about the murder, I went and got a search warrant for the residence. My understanding was that it was a Airbnb building. So multiple floors, multiple rooms, but certain floors could be rented out as an Airbnb. So I obtained a search warrant for the residence, so we could process the inside of the apartment. Once I obtained the search warrant, we went to the residence, executed the search warrant, processed the inside of the apartment. There was one witness that had made the 911 call that was detained at the scene. That witness was then transported to headquarters. After we went to the apartment and started processing the inside of the apartment, I went back to headquarters to interview the witness that was there.
Okay. Let's go. Do you remember around when you got there?
No, I don't recall. It was somewhere, I think it was somewhere around 2 a.m., give or take 30 minutes.
And the 911 call had come in at 10 p.m. the night before, so like a few hours, like 4 hours before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you try to talk to neighbors?
Yes, so while we were there, we knocked on several doors on the same floor where the offense occurred, where the murder was. Tried to locate any neighbors or any tenants that were there. We weren't able to find any tenants that were there.
Okay. And so you weren't able to talk to anybody who said they heard anything or saw anything?
Correct. Like we made contact with a few people, but nobody heard or saw anything.
Even though it's a gunshot in the middle of an apartment building, no one said they saw or heard anything?
Correct.
Okay. You said you made contact with the witness who was there. Do you remember who that was?
It's sorry, starts with a C. It's Du'Vonta. No, not Du'Vonta. It's Devonair Clarington. There it is.
So you met with Devonair Clarington
Mhm.
and his mother of his child, Lamondra Hodges, right?
I only met with Devonair.
Okay. Someone else interviewed Lamondra?
Yes, someone else spoke with her.
Okay. And so when you do you remember where it was you interviewed him?
I interviewed him at headquarters.
Okay. Were they under arrest after that interviews were completed?
They were not.
Did you have officers take them home?
Yes,
Were they suspects at any point to this crime?
they were not.
Okay. The building that you went to, Butler Brothers building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
Okay. They had surveillance footage, right?
they did.
Did you review that footage?
I did.
How did you review it?
I reviewed it there at the building in their video room where they keep the computer and the access to the video surveillance system.
Did you review it with Milo Rodriguez?
I did.
How long do you think you spent reviewing footage with her?
It was several hours over the course of a few days following the murder.
If I said like 9-10 hours, do you think that's about accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you find anything useful in those videos?
Yes.
Okay. Permission to approach, Judge.
Yes.
show you what I have marked. Okay. These have already been admitted, but just so we're clear, states 59, 60, and 61. Do you see all three of those?
Yes.
And what are those?
Those look like copies of the video surveillance.
Right, and you've reviewed the video surveillance, right?
Yes.
And I didn't make any alterations or deletions to this, right?
No.
Okay, and then what are we looking at when I show you? So states 90 has already been admitted, but states 91. Is this a copy of those videos stitched together to where it's not like individual, like 30-second clips?
Yes, it appears so.
So could you explain to the jury what I mean by 30-second clips? What was going on with those clips?
So when you watch the video, it's not just one continuous streaming video. It's broken up into sections. So what you can do is take all those sections and just stitch them and kind of gel them into one long video.
Okay, and so states 91 is that gelling of those videos to where it's not clicking on 21 different individual 15-second videos.
Correct.
Okay. I'd offer states 91 for all purposes and 155 and 156 for record purposes. No objection.
That was 91
Yes, 91 for all purposes,
for all purposes.
and then 155 and 6 for record purposes.
Alright, I've made.
And we will watch those in a little bit. All right, you reviewed the footage though, correct?
Yes, sir.
And based on your reviewing of the footage, at some point did you get a suspect?
Yes.
Because you already had, blocked out Debonair and Lamondre, so you didn't know who did this, right?
Correct.
And so you did go through the footage and you figured out one suspect. Who was the suspect you figured out?
Antwan Franklin.
Okay, do you see Antwan Franklin in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you identify him by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
He's got a long sleeve button down blue shirt.
Okay, and if I'm in seat number 1, going down 2, 3, 4, 5, what seat number is Antwan Franklin in?
5.
Your Honor, the record reflect the witness that identified the defendant in open court. Okay, how did you come to Antwan Franklin being a suspect?
So when we review video surveillance, the thing we're trying to establish is a timeline when the victim was last alive, who they were seen with, what they were doing. So we were able to narrow down that timeline to the early morning of May 5th. We could see the victim, Du'Vonta Lampkin, with a gentleman in his car. They park in front of the building, and they both get out of the car. They walk up to the front of the building and kind of walk back and forth several times. And that person, that individual that he was with, was Antwan Franklin.
How did you figure out it was Antwan Franklin?
So I had initially received information from the victim's family and friends because I asked about like some of his close friends, some of the people that the victim would hang out with who would know kind of his everyday life and kind of his routine and schedule. And Antwan Franklin was one of the people that they told me was one of his friends.
And that's the same Antwan Franklin sitting in the courtroom today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So once you figure out Antwan is a suspect because he was last seen with Du'Vonta, what do you do at that point?
So once I review all the video surveillance and kind of develop Antwan as a suspect, just because of training and experience in other murder cases that we worked. We know social media is a big form of communication. So I obtained his phone number, got his phone records, and got a warrant to obtain his social media records as well.
Okay, and so, you get his phone records, you get his social media records, you got his Instagram records, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell the jury about the process for getting those?
So simply, we just type the warrant, take the warrant to a judge so they can read the facts, make sure there's enough probable cause to get what we're requesting. Once they sign the warrant and approve it, we email it to Instagram, to the parent company, and we just wait for the records to get returned to us.
Are you allowed to just go and get anyone's Instagram records, or do you have to have some kind of basis for it?
We have to have some kind of basis for it.
And so that's what you're talking about, you have to go give it to the judge as to why it's relevant.
Correct.
Okay. Did you review Antwan's Instagram records?
I did.
Did you find anything relevant?
I did.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Permission to approach again, Judge?
Yes.
I am showing you what I have marked as State's Exhibit 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, and 81. Do you recognize those things?
Yes.
What is State's Exhibit 62?
62 is Antwan Franklin's Instagram records.
Okay, and then 63 and 64, what are those?
Those are screenshots of the actual Instagram account.
Okay, what about 65?
Those are the records I received from Instagram.
Conversations between Antwan and Erik Garcia?
Yes.
Okay, how about 66?
Those are conversation records from Instagram between Antwan and John Williams.
And what about 67?
Instagram records of conversations between the victim Du'Vonta and Antwan.
So 65, 66, and 67, as well as 63 and 64, all printouts basically from 62, correct?
Yes.
We get them from 62.
Yes.
All right, and then what's State's 81 is his phone records, you said?
Correct.
Okay. These are all stuff that you obtained through search warrant and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have I changed these in any way other than to add State's Exhibit stickers on them?
No.
I'd offer States 62 through 67 and States 81 for all purposes, tendering to defense for objections.
62 through 67 are admitted as well as 81.
Permission to publish, Judge.
Yes.
Okay, so here we're looking at States 63. We see Instagram records, correct? We see the front of an Instagram, correct?
Yes.
All right, this is like just basically the main account page. If you were looking at someone's Instagram, this is their personal Instagram, correct?
Correct.
All right. We see at the top here Cinco double G, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we see some photographs down here of who are in these photographs. Can you tell who this one is in this picture here?
That's Antwan Franklin.
How about here? These are all Antwan Franklin, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Looking at State 64, who is that we're seeing?
That is Antwan Franklin.
And that's Antwan Franklin from his story, correct? This is a story?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so in your process of getting these Instagram records, you reviewed his conversations with multiple people.
Yes.
We've talked about two of them. Who is Erik Garcia?
Erik Garcia is a co-defendant. He was another suspect that we identified later on through the course of the investigation.
And who is John Williams?
He is also another suspect that we identified throughout the course of the investigation.
Permission to person this one more time, Judge?
Yes.
I'm going to show you states 90. You don't have to turn the lights back on. I'm going to go right back. States 92 and 93. Who are those people?
92 is John Williams, and 93 is Erik Garcia.
Okay. Do these fairly and accurately depict what they look like?
They do.
Okay, from in 2022?
Yes, sir.
Have I changed them at all other than just to add states exhibit stickers on them?
No.
I'd offer states 92 and 93 for all purposes.
Ninety-two and ninety-three are admitted.
Okay. Just so we have an idea of who we're talking about. 92 is John Williams. 93 is Erik Garcia, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in the course of your investigation, you have, state 66 is a stack where it's Antwan talking to John Williams, right?
Yes.
And we see Cinco Double G and 42 Cosa Nostra. 42 Cosa Nostra is John Williams's?
Yes.
Okay. This is just their conversations throughout the history of their relationship, right?
Correct.
Okay. State 65, sorry, just to be clear, the messages end on May 4th. May 4th, 2022 at 4 p.m., correct? 4 p.m. UTC, which is, I can't remember,
It's-
6 hours, I think.
Yeah, it's 5-hour difference from our time.
So it'll be like 11 p.m. on May 3rd, technically.
Yes.
Okay. But after that, there's no messages between them, correct?
Correct.
There's a whole stack of messages from February of 2022, and these records were requested July 5th, right?
Yes.
So if there were messages after May 4th, you would have gotten those as well, correct?
If they had not been deleted.
Okay, because it's possible to delete messages.
Correct.
And if they were deleted, they wouldn't show up in your messages anymore, correct?
Usually no.
Okay. All right, and then state 67 are messages between Antwan and Du'Vonta, correct?
Yes.
Going from 1/23/2022 all the way through April 7th, 2022. Sorry, I'll zoom in, I apologize. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so state 65 is the conversation between Cinco Double G and Erik No Plug, right?
Yes.
All right, and Erik No Plug is Erik Garcia.
Yes, we identified the account owner as Erik Garcia.
How'd you do that?
We have kind of a intel analyst person who looks at social media records for us, or social media accounts, and are able to link those accounts with the true owners of the accounts.
Okay, and so we see, I'll zoom in on the time. The reason that you felt Erik Garcia might be relevant is because of that timing, right?
Yes.
Talk to us about that. What do you mean?
So once I got the Instagram records, I immediately went to the day of the offense and the day before the murder to see who he was communicating with and what they were communicating about. And when I went to those days, May 5th and May 4th, I could see the beginning of the conversation where Antwan is talking about how intoxicated the victim was that night.
Okay, and so it says at the top there, 2022 05 05 54952, right? UTC.
Yes.
And we just discussed how UTC actually would be, meaning that's about 12:49 maybe, or 11:49 p.m. or 12:49 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Depending on daylight savings, which I don't want to do math on. Okay, so, but basically it's around that night, right?
Yes.
So it's the night of Du'Vonta's murder.
Yes.
All right. And you're just looking at Erik's messages just because they were going on that night, correct?
Yes, I'm looking at the conversations and all the Instagram records and the conversations that Antwan is having.
Okay, and so the defendant in this case has a conversation with Erik Garcia, where Erik says, let's go out, and then Antwan says, the defendant, Antwan Franklin, says, brudda with N-word right now, he barred out, need you to rob us. Need you rob us, right?
Correct.
According to your training experience as a detective, what does that sentence mean? Let's break it down. He's saying he's with someone, right?
Yes.
And it says bared out. Did you interpret that as bared out, or do you interpret that as barred out?
So I interpret it as barred out. It's just misspelled. Barred out refers to being intoxicated from taking Xanax pills. Xanax on the street are known as bars.
So being barred out means you're high, intoxicated on Xanax, basically.
Typically, yes.
Theoretically.
Yes.
Okay. That's how you would interpret it based on your training experience.
Yes.
All right. So it says brudda with N-word right now. He barred out. Need you rob us. What does that mean? Need you rob us.
So to me, that means that the gentleman that he's with is so intoxicated on Xanax. Now he is kind of coming up with a robbery plan.
Okay, and this is at, let's say, midnight-ish on May 5th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Erik's response is WIA. What does that mean?
Where you at?
And then an attachment gets sent, and he says, so Antwan Franklin, the defendant, says, friendly, he with me, dis his car. What does that mean?
That means that the victim is friendly, not confrontational, and he's with them and they're in the victim's car.
Okay. This is still the defendant, Antwan Franklin, correct? Cinco double G?
Yes.
He got 20 on him, but he just put in-house on God in Airbnb. What does that mean?
To me, he's referencing, the money that he has, and he just put it inside of the residence of the Airbnb.
Do you think, what does 20 mean?
To me, I interpret that as roughly $20,000.
That's based on your training experience that you're interpreting it that way.
Correct.
Because we're not talking about $20.
No.
Okay. And so the way you're interpreting what Antwan is saying, what the defendant is saying, is he got 20 on him, but he just put it in the house. So there's $20,000 in the Airbnb, basically.
Yes, that's how I interpret that.
Okay. Antwan, the defendant says, I need you to break in while I keep him in car. What does that mean?
That just means he's going to keep him occupied, busy in the car, while Erik breaks in and steals the money.
And then he continues on by saying he sleep on bars. What does that mean?
Like he is unconscious because he's high on the Xanax.
Okay. Erik responds, where it at? Send Addy, right?
Correct.
Meaning send Addy means address in that situation, you think?
Yes.
Okay. The defendant responds, it's nobody in there. He from out of town. It's downtown. What do you think he's saying there?
He's just letting him know that the Airbnb is empty and it's downtown.
And that the victim is or the person that they're robbing is from out of town.
Correct.
Okay. Again, Erik responds with send address and I'm on the way. Hurry. Come on. Sorry. Hurry. Come on. Hurry. And then Antwan says, hold on. Right?
Yes.
Sorry, from the previous page, we see it was Erik, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, tell me where it's at and I'm on the way. The defendant responds, leading Grove, you and my bro gon' go, who was at my spot. I'ma have bro take me to my house and wake him up so he know he dropped me off. Do you know what that means?
So he's starting to come up with a plan of how to execute this. He said he's leaving the Grove, which I interpret as Pleasant Grove. You and my bro, he's referencing a third suspect that he's trying to implicate into the robbery plan.
Okay, and this again is Antwan Franklin, the defendant, right?
Correct.
Okay. Erik responds with bet. What does bet mean?
It just means okay.
Erik then also says, we gonna split, and then gives this emoji of like, I'll zoom in so people can see that. That emoji, which is sort of like a puzzle face, I guess?
Yeah, kind of like questioning, making sure they're on the same page as far as splitting the money.
Splitting that 20 that he was talking about, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the defendant says, y'all need hit while I'm pulling up home because I get my back end from my brother. What does that mean?
So he's telling them execute the robbery when he's pulling up, and he'll get his cut of the money from the third suspect that he's implicating. He'll get it after the robbery is completed.
And he says that in the next line too, where he said, the defendant says that, yeah, split with my brother, I'm gonna get my cut in AM.
Yeah, he's saying he's just gonna get his cut of the money that they steal in the morning.
Okay. And then Erik responds, let me know, LMK, what does LMK mean?
Let me know.
Okay, LMK, let me know, I'm changing into black, and then he says, I'm ready, right?
Correct.
Erik then says, took my drip off. Do you think it was meant to say toke or took?
I think it's misspelling. I think he meant took my drip off.
Okay. And then says, where your brother at? And then the defendant responds, okay, holla. Hold it. Right?
Yes.
Just give me a minute. Erik says, send me his location and give him the drop. Right?
Yes.
The defendant says, I'm trying to see how y'all can get in his door because it need a call, a phone. This is at probably close to 1 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to see how y'all can get in his door because I need to call a phone. What does that mean?
Because it needs a call phone. So at the beginning or at the entrance of the building, there's a call box, and you need a code in the call box to gain entrance into the building.
So he's seen a problem with getting entrance into the building, and now he's trying to sort of scheme how to get around that, maybe?
Correct. Yes, like how to get entrance into the building because they don't have the access code.
And this is again the defendant in the situation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Like bound have to get walk in, but he athletic. He friendly, no gun. What does all that mean from the defendant?
That just means, so he's friendly, no gun, means there's not gonna be some kind of shootout, during the execution of the robbery. They don't have to worry about the victim having a gun. He's athletic, means, like he can defend or take care of himself if someone tries to rob him.
Okay, but he friendly, no gun, that to you means he's talking about the victim, Du'Vonta Lampkin, is friendly and has no gun, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, and so then at the bottom here, Erik says, where are you at? And then the defendant sends an attachment and says, on freeway, on the way to my spot, leave him in car real quick, he dead for show, he out of there this sweet, and then Erik says, you at your spot, question mark, and I rob y'all, question mark, right?
Yes.
Have your bro with me. So Erik is saying what? What is Erik saying there?
Erik is just confirming the details that Antwan is communicating and confirming the details of how Antwan wants to execute the robbery, which is meeting at that specific location, and when you get there, then that's when I execute the robbery.
And then he says, have your bro with me. And then he's got question marks because it's now minutes are passing by, right? So he's got question mark, man. And then Erik continues. Cause this is 30 minutes later now, right? 6 to 6:30,
Yes.
but again, that's 1 to 1:30. Where are you at? Bro, let's just walk him in. That's what Erik said, right?
Yes.
Help him up. And then the defendant's response is, bro, y'all gonna do that, bro? Just chill. What does that mean?
He's just telling him I just interpret that as he's telling him just to relax. You're gonna get a chance to do the robbery, but just relax.
Okay. Erik's response is, we come behind y'all, cause if he ducked up, how he finna make it back? Do you think ducked up is,
I think it's a misspelling. I think he's trying to say he's fucked up.
okay. We come behind y'all cause he fucked up, how he finna make it back? That's what you're thinking was being said?
Yes.
Okay, cause Erik is asking, the reason I'm saying this is Erik is asking the defendant how this is gonna work, right?
Yes.
Erik suggested one thing and he's like, but he's still confirming with the defendant.
Correct. So they're trying to hash out the details and create, parts of the plan together. Do they do the robbery when they pull up? Do they walk him up to the Airbnb room and commit the robbery then? Like if his level of intoxication is so high that he's unresponsive as they're walking him up, then it's going to be easier. So they're just hashing out the details of when exactly they're going to commit the robbery.
Okay. And the defendant responds, he finna drop me off, bro, he easy, chill out, my brother gon' get him. My brother gon' get him, what is that? What does all this mean? You finna drop me off, bro, be easy, chill out, my brother gon' get him.
So he's saying like he's an easy target. He's a soft target for the robbery. He's about to drop him off, and my brother gonna get him, which
Okay.
I believe.
Alright, and he's good to make it back, question mark. That's from Erik, you think? And then the defendant's response is, bro, his tire going flat. Y'all sit outside. Right?
Yes.
That's what he says, y'all sit outside.
Yes.
This is 6:37. Remember, this all started at 5:49, right?
Correct.
Okay, so at less than an hour later, y'all sit outside. He sent an attachment and then says, I'm gonna go up and just take everything. What does that mean to you?
So now it seems like Antwan is changing the plan, saying that he's gonna go up and just take the money himself.
And Erik's response is, okay. 3 seconds later, so if we read this as a sentence, says 6:38:19, 6:38:22, so 3 seconds later he goes, I'm gonna go up and just take everything and come out, right?
Yes.
And Erik responds in the middle saying, okay.
Yes.
And then, on God, what does on God mean?
Kind of just mean like I swear or okay.
Okay. Erik then responds, let me follow you upstairs. I look normal. We going with you, right?
Yes.
What does the defendant respond to that?
He says no. He's gonna think I did it.
What does that mean?
So he's trying to, not cast or provide any suspicion to the victim for the robbery.
Even though he's saying he's the one who's gonna go do it.
Yes.
Says just chill. Erik says okay, because once again Erik is responding to what Antwan is saying, right?
Yes.
The defendant then says, we finna get him regardless. And what does that mean to you? We finna get him regardless.
Like we're going to rob him regardless.
Okay. Erik's response is, so how you gonna come down with everything? The defendant's response is, I am, bro. Damn, chill out. Right?
Yes.
Erik then responds with those emojis, laughing emojis, right?
Yes.
Erik responds, pinch it 5, walk up, and we'll walk y'all both in. And what does the defendant say to that?
He says no.
So again, Erik tried to give a suggestion as to how to do this, and it was the defendant who said no, right?
Yes.
Erik says, I'm here. This is around 140, right?
Yes.
Erik says, run it. What does run it mean?
Means do it, like execute.
So then the defendant responds, I'm just gonna tell him, Uber me, I bet, upstairs. And says, and I'm gonna let y'all in why he's asleep. You think that probably that why meant while?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And I'm gonna let y'all in why he's asleep. What does that mean to you otherwise?
That if he's, intoxicated, unresponsive, unconscious, then the defendant's going to let Erik and the other third suspect in.
Okay. Erik says okay. Says bet. Says come on, run it. And then the defendant says, hold on, I got something for him. Right?
Yes.
We finna charge your phone in car, and that's what the defendant said, correct?
Yes.
And Erik's response is, he not trying to take you upstairs? The defendant responds, and he finna Uber me, he need code on phone. When y'all see me leave in Uber. His tire flat. Soon as he Uber me, he going it. Y'all get him, soon y'all see me leave. Waiting on his phone cut on. What does all that mean?
So essentially they're now changing the plan. They're going to stay in the vehicle while the victim charges his phone. He's going to call an Uber. The victim is going to call an Uber for the defendant, and as soon as the defendant leaves, that's when they can execute the robbery.
And again, it's the defendant who's saying what the plan is, right?
Correct.
Erik tried to come up with a plan, and the defendant just sort of poo-pooed that and decided it's going to be what the defendant decided it was going to be, correct?
Yes.
Then says it's a go.
That means that's the plan. It's not a tentative plan now. That's what they're doing.
You need his phone turned on to get in apartment, and then Erik says, tell him you need to use restroom, go in, bid. You know what bid means? That's the second time we saw that.
Yeah, it's like an abbreviation for bitch.
Okay. The defendant then says, is good, LOL, we waiting on his phone. Erik says, leave door open. The defendant then started an audio call at 1:47, right?
Yes.
And the audio call ended 2 seconds later.
Yes.
And then says, tell my brother call me, right?
Yes.
Erik said, make him go inside, bitch. When his phone turn on. Go in with him. He's gonna open it already. Wait for him to get in. Go up with him, ho. And the defendant's response is, I can't, he finna Uber me, cause damn. Right?
Yes.
Alright, so we're at 157 now. He coming. Erik says, I'm on the 5th floor. We. The defendant says, okay, bet. Erik says, wait. at 2:07. At 2:07, the defendant responds, just walk behind him, don't do it till he at door. Erik responds, we know. That's at 2:08, right?
Yes.
You need the lights down still?
We can turn the lights on for a little bit while I talk to him. Okay, so we read through all those messages. Based on what you read of those messages and your training experience, what did you think was happening?
That they had hashed out and set up details for a plan to rob the victim as he was entering his Airbnb apartment.
Okay, and so part of what you did was getting videos, right, of all of the from the cameras on the entrances, second floor, the fourth floor, the fifth floor, right?
Correct.
You reviewed all those cameras. Right?
Yes.
Did you review them for around this time of these conversations, right?
Yes.
What did you see on those cameras?
So the timestamps on the Instagram conversations matched perfectly with the video surveillance timestamps. So you can see that they're having this conversation on Instagram at the exact same time that I can see all of these individuals on the video surveillance in the building.
When everyone was still outside, because at some point, the defendant, Antwan Franklin, and Du'Vonta Lampkin are sitting out front of the Butler Brothers building in Du'Vonta Lampkin's car, correct?
Yes.
That's that black Mercedes, right?
Yes.
So they're sitting out there, and what do you see on the video?
So you see the defendant and the victim get out of the car, go up to the call box, try to unlock the door. He can't. So they go back and forth a few times. At one point, the victim gets back into the front passenger seat of the vehicle, while the defendant is getting into the driver's seat of the vehicle. You can see him look over to his right and stick his hand out and kind of do a waving motion like this. The second he gives that waving motion, you can see two gentlemen that are on the side of the building kind of run into the building as the door is being opened by someone else.
And in the course of your investigation, did you figure out who those two guys were that Antwan Franklin, the defendant, was waving over?
I did. I identified those two people as Erik Garcia and John Williams.
Those are the people we have pictured up on the wall.
Yes.
Okay. So the defendant, Antwan Franklin, waves over those two people, Erik Garcia and John Williams. Erik Garcia, whose messages we just went through.
Yes.
And then they get into the building, or what happens?
Yes. So there is another tenant or resident that's entering the building. So as he opens the door to go into the building, Antwan waves Erik and John over. John and Erik are already waiting at the outside on the side of the building. When Antwan waves them over, that's when they go running into the building to follow the other tenant inside. After they go inside, they go straight to the elevators, and then they start going up to the 4th and 5th floors, trying to kind of take a look around, identify exactly which Airbnb apartment belongs to the victim. Once they kind of put their eyes on it, verify which apartment it is, then they start going back and forth between the floors, trying to kind of look around and decide exactly where they're going to stage or hide. They ultimately decide to hide in the stairwell on the 5th floor, which is where the victim's Airbnb apartment is. So when you look at the elevators, you'll see a stairwell to the left. So they ultimately just stay in the stairwell and wait for the victim to come up the elevator and come out.
Okay, and so on the video we see them, because we don't actually see any video towards Du'Vonta Lampkin's door, correct?
Correct. So the the video cameras, the surveillance videos in the building only face towards the elevators and the stairwell. They don't capture any of the doors or the hallways itself.
Okay, and so what you see is you don't actually see them, you don't see them attack him, you don't see them shoot him or anything like that in the video, correct?
Correct.
There's no cameras that were in Du'Vonta Lampkin's Airbnb either, correct?
No.
So we don't actually see what happens in that room either.
Correct.
What is it, so when we watch the video here shortly, what is it that we're gonna see when we, there's a bunch of clips to get through, but when we get to that clip of they're waiting for him on the 5th floor, what do we see?
So in the message, when you see that part, they're waiting for him on the 5th floor. That's the point where they are waiting in the stairwell. So when the defendant sends the message, he's on his way up. He's kind of giving them a heads up. He's coming up the elevator. So in the video, you see the stairwell. You can see John and Erik in the stairwell, and you can see them kind of poke their head out as the victim is coming off the elevator. When he comes off the elevator, they poke their head out, kind of get a visual confirmation that, yeah, that's the victim, identifying that's the person we're about to rob. So as the victim comes off the elevator, starts walking towards his Airbnb room, you can see them rush out of the stairwell and kind of rush up close behind him, and then they move off of the camera view.
Okay, the permission to publish states 91, 59, and 60.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna watch states 91, which is the stitching of the videos from 59 and 60, starting with the video from 5:46 p.m. on May 4th. Who's that we saw just walk out?
That's the victim, Du'Vonta Lampkin.
And that's him walking to his Mercedes there, right?
Yes.
And we see him wearing that backpack that was a distinctive backpack that he was known to wear, correct?
Correct.
So the next clip is going to be from May 4th at 10:32 p.m. that we're gonna see here. Who is that we're seeing pull up there?
That's the victim's vehicle.
Okay, and the next one is now 10:35 p.m. Who is that we're seeing there?
That is the victim. He's at the call box, kind of pushing in the code to get entrant or to gain access into the building.
So that was all from states 59, and then state 60, we've got the same entrance at 1:40 in the morning. That's about to start. saw the black Mercedes pull up, and that was, the victim's vehicle, right, that we're seeing now?
Yes, that's the victim's vehicle.
And so now we're at the one, on the 143 clip. Who is this person that we see in blue?
The person in the blue hooded sweatshirt is the defendant, Antwan Franklin.
So I paused it at 3:16 in the video. This person that we're seeing in the blue, right, this light blue hoodie, we're saying is the defendant Antwan Franklin?
Yes.
Okay.
In later parts of the video, he doesn't have his hoodie on, so his face is much clearer.
Okay.
You can distinguish that is him.
And this is the victim with him, right?
Yes.
What we just saw right there, was that what we were talking about in terms of the defendant waving over somebody?
Yes. So he kind of waits till the victim gets into the passenger seat before he makes the waving motion to kind of ensure that the victim doesn't see him waving the two other suspects, Erik and John.
Alright, so let's watch that again. I'll zoom out a little bit so we can see what comes up on the side. Alright, so it's at 5:16 in State's Exhibit number 91. He does a waving motion. We just saw a man approach in a black hoodie and a man in a white t-shirt. Who are those two people?
The one in the black hoodie is John Williams, and the one in the white T-shirt is Erik Garcia.
Okay, so just to watch again, 5:16. Honesty, and the file is labeled 1:30 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. Urbay Entrance 2, 2022 05-05 154. What are we looking at right now?
So this is the first floor. When you enter the building,
Second floor.
I'm sorry, the second floor. This is where you get on the elevators after you enter the building.
And this in the black here is the same person, John Williams from before, and Erik Garcia?
Yes.
So we see them get off on the 5th floor, right? Sorry, I'll zoom in for that.
Yeah. So in this in this video, you can see them go up to the 5th floor. That's the floor indicator on the elevator. So they go up. Yeah, they go up to the 5th floor. They kind of go out of camera view, but you can see them go to their right. It's our left when we're looking at the video. They initially go that direction, but the victim's apartment is the other way. So those shadow figures are them kind of changing, going the other direction to positively ID the victim's Airbnb apartment. I think once they put eyes on it, kind of verify and confirm exactly where the room is, then they make their way back to the elevator.
And at this point, they go from the 5th floor only down 1 floor, though, right?
Yes.
So they get on the elevator. And they come down on the 4th floor this time.
Yes. And then they're back on 5, right? Correct.
This time, where are they going right now?
Now they're going towards the stairwell. That door that they go through is the stairwell. There's just the staircase that goes up and down from floor to floor.
And so we're seeing, they came out the elevator. To the right of the elevator is the stairwell. Back this way towards the bottom of the screen would be towards Du'Vonta Lampkin's Airbnb, correct?
Yes.
so now we have gone to Irving entrance 20505 at 2:04 in the morning.
Yes.
Now to second floor, 2022-05-05-207.
Yes. So that's the victim going back into the building. So when you think about the Instagram messages, the defendant talking about the victim's gonna call him an Uber. When they walk off screen, that's the point where the defendant catches the Uber and leaves, and then sends the message, hey, he's coming up, and they have already staged in the stairwell.
Now we're gonna go to fifth floor, 2022-5-5 at 2:08.
Yes,
This is the victim?
that's the victim coming out, and then if you look at the stairwell, you can see the head poke out initially. That's just visual confirmation that it's the victim. Then you can see John Williams and Erik Garcia running out of the stairwell, running up behind the victim as he's approaching his Airbnb.
And then 2022-05-05-09 at 2:09. We're gonna see the next clip here.
Yes, so this is roughly a minute later. You can see Erik Garcia running back down the hallway, running towards the stairwell, goes down the stairwell. The bag that he
Yeah, let's watch that again.
the bag that he has in his hand is the backpack that we saw the victim with earlier in the daytime videos. When the victim was exiting the building, walking towards his car, that very distinct backpack that he was wearing, that's the backpack that Erik Garcia is now running away with.
That backpack.
Yes.
And just so we all see it, he doesn't have anything in his hand beforehand other than his phone, right?
Correct.
I've rewound so we can watch it again. The next clip is Irving Entrance 2, 2022-05-05-211.
That's the same front of the building, the entrance door. After Erik Garcia goes down to the stairwell, runs down, then, you know, shortly after that, you can see him running across the front camera, going back towards the direction where they initially came into frame when they initially entered the building.
Because this is that same black Mercedes that we were seeing earlier, correct?
Yes.
And we see Erik Garcia running that way. Okay, Judge, we can get the lights back. Permission to approach the witness?
Yes.
I am showing you what I have previously marked as states 94 and states 68 through 79. Could you review those?
Yes, these are all still shots of the video surveillance that we just watched.
So they're basically just screen grabs from the video, right?
Yes.
It's still the same from the video that we've been watching that are contained on states 59 and 60, but just like screenshots of the screen itself.
Yes.
Okay, do these fairly and accurately depict those stills from the video?
Yes.
Okay. I offer states 68 through 79 for all purposes and 94 for all purposes. Okay.
68 through 79 as well as 94 are admitted for all purposes.
Okay. All right, so what are we looking at in states 94?
So that is a still shot of Antwan Franklin. He is basically outside the front door with the victim, trying to gain access into the building.
Okay. And there is, just to be really clear, no evidence, zero evidence of Antwan Franklin ever going into the building of Butler Brothers, right?
Correct.
At all. Like there's no one's even alleging that he went into the building at this time for the murder.
Correct.
It is your belief based on your investigation that he was already in Uber somewhere else by that point.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so you see this video. What are your steps? What do you do?
So the portion of the video where we can see the defendant waving the suspects in, kind of how everything unfolds, establishes the timeline for us. That was the very early morning of May 5th. The 911 call wasn't made until the very late night of May 5th. So we, at that point, had lost 12 plus hours worth of, investigative time for us. So when we get the call later on that night, review the video the next day. Once I see the arm waving motion, that's kind of what made Antwan Franklin the suspect. That was enough for me to go get warrants for the phone records, for the Instagram records. Take several weeks for those records to come back. Once I got the phone records and the social media records, I could see the conversation. After I read the conversation, I went ahead and obtained arrest warrants for Erik Garcia and Antwan Franklin. Those were the two that I was immediately able to identify at that time.
Did you end up getting their phone records as well?
I did.
Okay. Permission to approach again, Judge?
Yes.
I'm showing you what I've marked as states 82 and 83. What are those two?
These look like copies of phone records for John Williams and Erik Garcia.
Okay. And they fairly and accurately depict what you got from, as responses from those phone record requests?
Yes.
Okay, I'd offer states 82 and 83 for all purposes. Okay.
82 and 83 are admitted.
Okay, and so you, at some point, do you make an arrest in this case?
We do.
At what point is it you get to that?
So after I obtained arrest warrants for Antwan Franklin and Erik Garcia, we arrest them two initially on July 8th. So this is roughly 2 months after the murder occurred.
Who were the first people arrested?
Antwan Franklin and Erik Garcia.
Okay. John Williams is not arrested right immediately.
No, we had not identified him yet. So initially, based on the Instagram records and the conversations, we were able to confirm and identify Antwan Franklin and Erik Garcia.
Okay, because Erik and Antwan are the ones who are really talking about it.
Correct.
John, as we saw, the records are not there anymore if there were records, correct?
Correct.
Because records just happened to disappear from starting the day before this whole incident happened.
Possibly.
Okay. And so Antwan Franklin and Erik Garcia are both arrested. Do you interview them?
Yes.
In the course of your investigation, what is it you learned happened?
During the offense, during the murder, or
Yes.
okay. So what I learned happened was that Antwan essentially set up the robbery plan. He reached out to Erik Garcia. He confirms that part of the plan, and then I was provided with information that allowed me to identify John Williams as the third suspect involved in this case.
Did you interview the defendant in this case?
I did.
Okay. Did he agree to speak to you?
He did.
Did you give him his Miranda warnings as required by law?
I did.
Is that on video?
Yes.
There were several sets of videos for this, correct?
Yes.
It's not one of those, because there's, okay, just explain to the jury, how is it that you guys do interviews? Is it someone's arrested, immediately someone's in there with them, and then the conversation happens, and then they let them go, or what's the process?
Yeah, typically when someone's arrested, we place them in an interview room. Depending on the circumstances, sometimes it takes 30 minutes before we go in to talk to them. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 hours to go in and talk to them, because we're still trying to obtain evidence and get kind of our ducks in a row and questioning in order before we go in and speak with them. So sometimes that interview can take 10 minutes, sometimes it can take 3 or 4 hours or longer.
In this situation, how long did it take?
It took, I think, total video time is more than 4 or 5 hours. But a lot of that time is the defendant just sitting by himself in the video or in the interview room.
When you spoke to him, what did he say happened in this incident?
So he said that he wasn't inside. He didn't know exactly what had happened. He had not had much communication with either Erik Williams or Erik Garcia or John Williams. Said he did not, his intention was not for them to shoot and kill him. His intention was just to rob him for the money. Did he outright say, "I wanted him robbed"? Yes, he acknowledged that his intention was only to rob him, not to kill him.
Okay, and the way that you also could glean that is because he said that he didn't get any money out of this.
Correct. So during the interview, I asked him how much money he got from the robbery or from the victim, and he said that he didn't get anything. He said he was cut out of of the money, and he never met up with anyone the next day or the next morning as they had planned and talked about. and he never got any money from the robbery.
Did Erik Garcia ever tell you what happened?
He did not.
Permission to publish states 58, Judge?
Yes.
I don't think I need it to get dinged for this one, because it's just a piece of papers. Alright. States 58, are you familiar with states 58?
Yes.
Okay, it's the door logs from Sonder, correct?
Yes. So one of the things that we obtained is when a door is open and closed, there is a timestamp that is kind of registered and logged for every door. So every time the victim would open the door or close the door, there was a log of every one of those incidents. So one of the things that we did was we obtained the log for the victim's apartment door that would show all the data every time that door opened and closed.
Okay, and so it's got local time and it's got a UTC time, right?
Correct.
And so we know that the victim checked in, Du'Vonta Lampkin checked in on May 2nd to this Airbnb, correct?
Yes, I believe that's a correct date.
All right, and in fact, we saw a video of him. That first video clip we saw was at about 5:45 p.m. on May 4th, right?
Correct.
And we see lock opened. We see again lock opened at 7 p.m. and again at 10:37 p.m. when we see him get back. Sorry, is that not visible? I apologize. Here we go. Let's do better there. We see lock was open again at 10:37 p.m., which was that second video we saw when it turned night, right? We saw him getting back. That was around that time, correct?
Yes.
All right, and then we see again lock opened at 12:18, 12:21, and then the next time the lock was attempted was at 2:09 a.m. on May 5th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And it says lock rejected. Based on your training experience, what does that mean?
That means that there was an attempt to open the door, but it did not. It didn't open. So it could be the key fob or the key that or code that you input was incorrect.
So then 6 seconds later, see the lock was open, right?
Yeah. Well, it's yes.
209, 202,
Yes.
209,
Yes.
208.
Mhm.
Lock was open, and then less than 40 seconds later, we see the lock was opened again, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and refreshing our recollection from before, that video that we saw where we see Erik running away, where we see them getting on, following Du'Vonta Lampkin to the apartment, that was at 2:08 on the video that we saw, right?
Correct.
And then at 2:09, we see Erik running away, right?
Correct.
Okay. So 2:09:02, the door is attempted to be opened. Sorry. 2:09:02, the door is attempted to be opened, was not opened. 2:09:08, it finally was opened 6 seconds later. Less than 40 seconds later, it's opened again, around the same time that Erik is running away, right?
Correct.
And then the door is opened again at 30 seconds after that at 2:10:16, right?
Correct.
And then it's not opened again until 9:56 p.m. that night, right?
Correct.
Who came back at 9:56 p.m. that night?
Devonair Clarington, the individual that we initially interviewed and the one that made the 911 call.
That was the person who made the 911 calls at 9:56 p.m.
Yes, he's the one that discovered the complainant deceased inside of the Airbnb room.
So he's there at 9:56 p.m., lock open, and then a minute later, lock opened again, meaning that door was opened again.
Correct.
And then the next time is at 10:20 p.m., which is when the police are responding at that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all these after that would be police involvement. You're somewhere around here too, probably.
Correct.
Maybe this 2 o'clock one, maybe. right?
Correct.
But this is the door log showing what happened at that time. There was, to go over it again, there was a rejected one at 20902, opened at 20908, opened again at 20946, and then opened one last time at 21016, right?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Pritchett again?
Yes?
I'm showing you states 95 through 100. What is states 95 through 100?
These look like copies of the interview videos with me and Antwan Franklin.
And so the way the files were labeled was A Franklin #1, A Franklin #2, all the way to A Franklin #6. That's why it's 6 different discs, right?
Yes.
Okay, and these fairly accurately depict the interview that you did from that day, correct?
Yes.
I'd offer states 95 through 100 for all purposes.
95 through 100 are admitted for all purposes.
Okay, and so you've told us what he said. The jury can go back and watch all of that video if they would like to later, correct?
Yes.
Okay. To be clear though, what he said is what? Could you tell us again, summarize what he said? Happened that night?
So he acknowledged, that the plan was just to rob the complainant. He had no intention of having the victim killed. It was just the robbery, and he said that he got cut out of the money. He did not receive his cut of the money like they had originally discussed. He had little to no communication with John Williams or Erik Garcia after the murder and the robbery. And then he provided the information that led us to be able to identify John Williams as the third individual involved in the murder.
Okay, and you said it a couple times, he said that he intended for the robbery but not the murder, right?
Correct.
Why did you charge him with capital murder then?
Because the intention doesn't have to be there. The Texas law is very clear. It says if a person is killed in the commission of another felony, then that is the circumstance under which you are allowed to charge capital murder.
So the fact that John Williams or Erik Garcia had one of them brought the gun and killed Du'Vonta Lampkin, them deciding to shoot him does not take away from Mr. Franklin's responsibilities. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, because he created the opportunity and the circumstance for the murder to occur, if that makes sense.
He coordinated it. Right?
Yes, yes,
He was the one who was planning it that we saw in messages.
yes.
Every time Erik tried to take away that planning feature that Mr. Franklin was doing, what did the defendant do?
He rejected that plan and kind of implemented his own plan.
In fact, he almost said that he was going to do it himself, right, in those messages.
Correct.
He said he was going to do it himself. He didn't do it himself, but that's what he said in the messages, correct?
Yes.
Also, just housekeeping, Du'Vonta Lampkin was shot with a firearm, correct?
Yes.
A firearm is a deadly weapon per se, correct?
Yes.
And is it your opinion, as the lead detective on the case, that it was in the course of committing a robbery that was planned by Antwan Franklin that the victim, Du'Vonta Lampkin, was killed?
Yes.
Pass the list.
Let's take a break. It's 3 o'clock, so
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they go into the apartment, and they stay in there for a few minutes. Du'Vonta winds up dead. We see Erik Garcia leaving with the backpack that they were after because the backpack's supposed to have money in it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what happened to Williams? We never see him leave.
We do not. He's not captured on video after that.
We know why.
No, we're not entirely sure. What we know is that the video surveillance system is connected to Wi-Fi. It's motion activated, so we're not sure which direction he left in. If there's a camera, that he was able to kind of go around. We're not sure why.
So basically, with all the cameras, with all the video we have of coming and going, watching these two people go from floor to floor, elevator to stairwell, John Williams suddenly just disappears. Is that right?
He doesn't disappear. He's just not seen on the videos.
Okay. He's not seen after what we think is the time frame of the murder, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and we see, we're definite that Erik Garcia has that backpack. There's no question about that, correct?
Yes, sir. That's what we believe.
As a matter of fact, when we look at these two people, Erik Garcia and John Williams, headed for the room, we see no guns, right?
Correct.
And we see, and when Erik Garcia is leaving with the backpack, we also see no gun at that point either, do we?
No, we don't see one.
Okay. So, we don't know, you don't know, because you weren't there, there's no video of what happened in that room. We don't know what happened in that room, do we?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, I want to go to some of these messages that were sent back and forth between Erik Garcia and Antwan Franklin, which are contained in State Certificate number 65. And in the very, very beginning, here that indicates that Du'Vonta is any kind of a threat because he's been taking drugs all evening, right? All right. And then we get to, we're over here, and let's just walk in, help him up. Y'all better do that, just chill. I don't really get that, but again, we're talking about help him up, okay? Then we go down to here, and we have, he's been dropped me off, bro. Easy, chill out, my brother, gonna get it. Now, again, we're talking about Du'Vonta, I guess, he's kind of out of it. Right?
Yes, sir, that's what we believe.
And then, at this point over here, he does say, we're talking about, Antwan says, I'm just gonna go up and take everything. That's what Antwan said. I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna go up and take everything. He could have gone up there. At this point, leaving these two people aside, Antwan could have gone up to the apartment with Du'Vonta himself. Is that correct?
That's how I understand that, yes.
Okay. He could have gone up to the apartment. Du'Vonta's out of it. Du'Vonta can pass out wherever he wants to. Antwan grabs his backpack and leaves. That's what that can mean right there. I'm just gonna go up there and take everything myself. Right?
Yes, sir, that's what I believe.
All right. And then, I don't know where we go from here exactly, but he does say that he doesn't want to be involved with Erik and John when they go upstairs because he's gonna think I did it. Now, that would mean that if Antwan at that particular point in time is saying he's gonna think I did it, that would mean, would it not, that Du'Vonta is gonna live through whatever happens because he doesn't want Du'Vonta knowing that Antwan was involved in this at all, right? He anticipates that Du'Vonta is gonna live through this, right? Because he says, I don't want him to know I did it, right?
Possibly, yes.
Okay? So, we go back and forth here. The video is clear that Antwan does wave these two people in. That's clear, correct? I mean, we see that. We see Antwan reaching out of the driver's door and doing this, and then we see the two people, Erik and John, go in the door, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they gain access to that Butler building because somebody else has opened the door, right? So they go in behind it.
Yes, sir.
Now, after they get in, Antwan does say, okay, he does let them know after they're in there that Antwan notifies them that Du'Vonta's coming in, and then at that particular point in time, Antwan leaves, right?
Yes, sir.
So he lets them know after they get in that
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, if the plan, like in the very beginning, if the plan was to break into that apartment, once those two, John and Eric, are in the building, they can break into that apartment, steal the backpack, and leave, right? I mean, they can do that, right?
At the point where the victim is going up the elevator,
At the point in time that the victim is not in the building, those two people, John and Eric, can break into that apartment, steal the backpack, and leave,
yes, that would have been possible, I believe.
okay? And so, at that would be, Antwan could be warning those two people to get out, to hurry up, break in, get the backpack and leave, because he's on the way up there. That's what that could mean, couldn't it?
I don't believe so.
Well, we don't know though, do we? We really don't know, do we?
I mean, based on the messages, when, they're saying that they're gonna wait in the stairwell for him, I think that's clear that they understand and are communicating with each other that they have not broken into it. They are waiting for him in the elevator, and he is, I believe, notifying them that he's going up so that they know to go up behind him when he comes off the elevator.
But that's what we get from Eric, right?
Well, from the message exchange between Eric and the defendant.
Yes. But from the defendant, from the get-go, what we get from Antwan, from the very beginning of this thing, from the very first that we look at it, is I need you to break in. That's what we get from the very beginning. I need you to break in. That's what we get. That's where we start this whole process. I need you to break in, right? Starts there right on page 1 of all these texts back and forth. I need you to break in.
Well, that's actually the second thing. The first thing is I need you to rob us, and then it changes to I need you to break in. So that's where it actually starts, is I need you to rob us.
That was when he was in the car, right? I need you to rob us. We are in the car. Come and rob us. I'm there. You come, you rob us. In other words, if he's sitting in the car with Du'Vonta, these dudes come up and rob him. I don't know where they're supposed to get the money exactly, but they come up and rob him. He's in the car. They take what money there is. They leave, and he's a victim of robbery. That's what that says, right?
I believe so, yes.
You need to come and rob us. Okay. So, from these texts, we do have Eric and we do have John winding up in that room with Du'Vonta doing something, and we have John, who disappeared from the face of the earth evidently at that particular point in time. That's what we've got.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no further questions.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Did he say no?
I said no.
Okay, no further questions.
All right, you can sit down. Next one.
Judge, they would call Julian was here. jury.
Sure. My name is Julian Lapierre, and I work for Dallas County Pretrial Services and Electronic Leg Monitoring Unit.
So let's talk about that. How long have you been doing that for?
I have been working for Pretrial Services for over 11 years now.
And you don't just work for pretrial services in the ELM department, right?
Correct. I'm a supervisor for that department, so I supervise 15 officers that supervise. Currently, roughly, we have about 550 defendants out on GPS ankle monitors as a condition of bond, as a condition of them being out of jail.
So someone gets arrested for a crime, they post bond, a judge, not necessarily this one, but a judge in general, would say, hey, you have an electronic leg monitor as a condition of your bond. You guys are the ones who are monitoring that.
Correct.
And so when you say you supervise 15 people who supervise 550, the people you supervise are actually watching people's leg monitors, right?
Correct.
And so a pretrial officer such as, did you used to be a pretrial officer before you were supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so when you were an ELM supervision officer, you had a caseload of, a couple hundred people?
About 30.
30, okay. And so, it's hard.
I understand completely.
550 divided by 15 is very well, very fast. So you supervised 30 people, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you're actually watching, does this person go outside of bounds where they're supposed to, right?
Correct. So there's
Go ahead, explain that.
so there's different conditions with each individual defendant that's released. We call those conditions of bond. Some defendants may have a stay away order. Some defendants may have to enroll in some counseling or classes. We have standard UA order for drugs and alcohol.
Sorry, UA is what?
Urinalysis. So it's very much like probation, but it's pre-trial, so it's before somebody comes to trial or takes care of their cases.
So someone gets given a bond, a judge orders what their conditions of bond will be. You guys are supervising to make sure those people are doing what they're supposed to be doing while they're on bond.
Correct. And typically there are the main conditions with an ankle monitor are going to be somebody that's placed on full house arrest, which means they're not able to leave their home, or somebody that has work or school release, which means that they would be able to go to a job that's verified by our office and work and come home. Anything outside of those parameters, they would actually have to get permission from their assigned officer to go. So it's kind of like, Mother, may I go to Walmart? Can I go here? And those have to be approved before leaving the home.
And so just in general, are people who are put on ELM supervision told these instructions?
Yes, that's correct. So anybody that's placed on our program, typically we release them from the jail, so they'll post bond, but they're not released until we come to the jail and release them. And we have an orientation with them. We go through all of the rules, all of the conditions that are set forth. They're placed, the ankle monitor is placed on their ankle or person, and they're also given instructions on how to take care of that equipment and what to do and what not to do.
So you said they're given instructions on how to take care of that equipment. What does that mean?
So with the GPS ankle monitor, it's kind of like a cell phone. People kind of forget that it is an electronic device and you actually have to charge it. So somebody that's never been around one or never had one might not think that they have to actually charge it in order for it to work. So instructions are given on how to do that. They don't remove it and charge it. They're stuck to the wall charging it, and so they have to take care of their device. No submerging in water. Not tampering with the device. Trying to remove it. Trying to open it up, pry it open. Things like that.
And so let's break down a little bit. If you don't charge the device, what happens?
Eventually that battery will die and we will not have GPS on that person, and we would file a noncompliance report to the court stating that we no longer have GPS on this particular person.
If someone goes in an area they're not supposed to go into, what happens with you guys?
Typically, the pretrial officer will file a noncompliance report indicating the places that they went without permission.
If someone needs to come in and take a drug test, what do you guys do?
They come and submit to the testing, and if they do test positive for a substance, again, we do notify the court.
But so basically, it's you guys collect information and then put the information out there. Is basically what I'm saying.
Correct. Yes.
You guys let the court know, and the court handles it however the court wants to handle it.
Yes, sir.
What happens if I think you mentioned someone tries to mess with the tamper, I think is what you said.
Correct.
Can you
So.
talk to the jury about that?
Yes, so we have what's called tamper alerts, and those alerts are generated via email and sometimes via text message to duty officers. Tamper alert can mean a lot of different things. Tamper alerts typically indicate that the device has been tampered with in some way. Most of the time, we have what's called a backplate tamper, which is when the backplate has been removed from the top plate. I didn't bring a device with me to show you. And then we have what's called a strap tamper. And the strap is obviously what goes around the ankle. And if there's a tamper, because that strap has fiber optics within the strap itself, and if that fiber optics is disturbed in some way, we will get a tamper alert indicating to us that that strap 9 times out of 10 has been, cut or mutilated in some way.
And I know you don't have a device with you, so I'm just gonna pull my watch out real quick. So like basically there's a strap, right, that goes around the ankle, and there's, you said a front plate and there's a front plate and a back plate, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and so those plates connect together, and when the strap is connected, then it's basically a whole unit, basically, right?
Correct.
And it's got a full circuit to where the power runs through it, and then it sends its signals to you guys.
Correct.
And if someone, cuts the strap, then you guys have a notification that the strap has been cut.
Correct.
If someone detaches the back plate off of it, then you have something that says backplate tamper.
Correct.
You guys, what I'm saying is like there's that level of specificity in terms of when there's a tamper.
There is, yes.
Okay. And what happens if you receive a tamper alert?
So the assigned officer, if it's during business hours, the assigned officer will immediately send what's called a reset to that device to reset to see if the tamper alert comes back. The officer will then start making phone calls to reach out to that.
Let me stop you there. Why is it you guys do that? Why do you do that reset thing that you're talking about?
So, in a nutshell, sometimes, if a defendant is working or they bump it on something, you can get what's called a false tamper. And so when we send a reset to that device, if the tamper alert immediately comes back, that is a very good indicator that the device is no longer intact, and that it is a true tamper, what we call a true tamper.
That's all giving basically the benefit of the doubt, saying maybe something's wrong with the device. Let me just reset this whole thing. Basically, turn the power off and on, basically, right?
Correct, just sending a reset, yes.
Which we always have to do with our phones and computers.
Yes, yes.
Did you turn the power off? Okay. So I believe you said you were talking about in the event that there's a tamper, you do a reset, and then what's the next thing that happens?
So then the assigned officer would reach out to that participant, try and get a hold of them and ask them, hey, what's going on with the device? I need you to report. If they're not responding, officers will then reach out to emergency contacts or any other phone numbers that we might have in our database to try and get that person to come into our office.
Okay. All right. And so generally then, what happens after that?
Depending on what happens, if there's no answer, then we go forward with what we call an abscond notice. We submit that to the court, stating that this person has absconded from our supervision.
So a tamper to you guys means once you're sure that it is actually a tamper, is the same thing as absconding,
Correct.
meaning leaving, right?
Correct.
Okay. What do you guys tell people in orientation about tell them about what happens to them?
So during orientation, we have an orientation packet that is signed by the officer conducting orientation and also signed by the defendant or the participant. And in that packet, it does list several different reasons why an assigned officer may file a noncompliance report or a violation, and such things as testing positive, leaving your home without permission, absconding, removing the device without any permission. We would file a violation at that point, and that is listed specifically in the orientation packet.
Are they told that if you file that violation, that there's a possibility that they'll end up going back to jail based on that violation?
Correct. Like when a violation is filed, there's a possibility that a warrant may be issued for their arrest.
Okay, and that's, you guys do inform them of that?
Correct.
That's just standard policy for your office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so back in August of 2022, did the ELM Supervision Office supervise Antwan Franklin?
Yes.
Could you please tell us about that?
Sure. So, Mr. Franklin had his bonds were posted, and as a condition of that, he was held for our division. And we released him on August the 10th of 2022. And
If I could ask you, did he also go through orientation?
he did.
So that same orientation you were talking about, he went through the same orientation?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, do you see Antwan Franklin in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you identify him by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Yes, he's wearing a blue shirt and a tie.
Okay, if I'm sitting in seat number 1, going down 2, 3, 4, 5, what seat number is Antwan Franklin in?
Mr. Franklin is in seat number 5.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witness identify the defendant in open court. Okay, so you guys, Antwan Franklin was being supervised by you guys?
Correct.
Okay. At some point, did an abscond notice get issued on Antwan Franklin?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury about that?
Yes. So on June 27th of 2023, at about 2:35 p.m., a tamper alert was registered on Mr. Franklin's device. His assigned officer did send a reset to the device, and the tamper immediately came back. This was a strap tamper. There were multiple phone calls that were placed and no answer. So at that point, his assigned officer did file an abscond notice.
Okay, and so sorry to use my watch again. Strap tamper means that the strap was cut or something was disrupted in some way. The circuit was not complete anymore.
Yes, sir.
But
Correct.
from the strap.
Correct.
Okay. That was June 27th of 2023. Right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
After he had started with you guys in August of 2022.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You guys attempted to make contact with him?
Yes.
Did anyone ever get in touch with him?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. When was it that Mr. Franklin was rearrested, if you recall roughly?
Roughly, I was notified that Mr. Franklin was arrested in July of 2024.
Okay, so about a year later, he was missing in action, basically, for us.
Correct. There was an active warrant for his arrest until they
Until
found
he
him.
was arrested. Okay, pass the witness.
Okay, so he cut off his monitor,
Yes, sir.
and warrant was issued for his arrest.
Yes, sir.